Can you mute your microphone just a bit for a moment? Because I don't seem to be able to mute you. Oh, yeah, I could. Yeah, no, you're muted. Okay, thank you. Just because when you're typing, kind of. Well, we're waiting for 2 o'clock to hit, but then we can officially kick this off.
All right, the tweet is out.
Thank you. Good. And well, yeah, that's the update later. So, hi everybody. Welcome to the 5th episode of Gutenberg Times Live Q&A. My name is Birgit Pauli-Haack and I'm your host. I'm also the publisher of Gutenberg Times, and I have been curating news and community voices around the new blog editor for WordPress, codenamed Gutenberg, since June 2017, coming up at 1 year and a half. Today, I'm thrilled to have Hendrik Luehrsen, CEO of Luehrsen Heinrich Media Communications Agency, as our guest. I will introduce him and his work in a bit, but first I will go over some housekeeping and let you know about our sponsors. Then Hendrik and I will discuss what way early adopters attracted to Gutenberg and how he and his team feel about it going into WordPress core later this month. If we have time, we'll discuss the latest news around Gutenberg, and in between, we keep an eye on the live YouTube chat for your comments and questions. So, welcome. So this show is sponsored by Polysystems, a web development agency founded in 2002 by yours truly. Our team of designers, developers, copywriters, and business development experts help small business to reach their current and future customers. We also assist nonprofits, fostering meaningful relationships with their constituents online. Beyond new website projects, we optimize existing sites for speed and SEO, create lead magnets, improve visitor and donor experiences, and we are all about the holistic approach to online communication, and we integrate website engagement with email marketing, social media, and back office systems like CRMs, ERPs, and learning management systems. This show is also brought to you by very generous individuals who support the Gutenberg Times through contributions via Patreon. You too can become a patron. The link is in the description below. Yeah. And every bit helps to sustain the project. For those of you watching live on YouTube, on your right, there's the online chat window where you can post your questions and comments during our conversation. It can be any question about Gutenberg and WordPress or questions you have for our special guest. If you follow us on Twitter, you can also submit a question by tagging them with Guten Tag, just another Guten pun. If you're catching this as a podcast on demand, feel free to send us your comments and questions via email to pauli@gutenbergtimes.com, PAULI@gutenbergtimes.com. And of course, everything will be in the show notes on the Gutenberg Times. So now, without further ado, welcome to the show, Hendrik Luehrsen.
Hey, Birgit. Guten Tag, hey Birgit. Thank you for having me. It's amazing to be here.
Well, thank you for taking the time in your off hours to be on the show also. And thank you for being a generous sponsor on the for the Gutenberg Times on Patreon.
I mean, like, someone has to do it, and you're doing an amazing job of communicating Gutenberg, which I feel could be done more. So, of course, we support the communication that is there, that is good, and that has to be done.
Well, thanks so much. I wish I could do more, of course, but before we talk about your work with Gutenberg, tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you live, what you do for fun, and how you got started with web development, and when did you make it a business?
Well, as some people probably caught on by my accent, I'm obviously from Germany. I was born in northern Germany, or close to a town called Bremen, and moved to university to a town called Munich. You most likely know that from Oktoberfest, because nowadays everyone does Oktoberfest. And I started developing when I was like 11. There was a famous German publication called Computer Bild, which had like a HTML course, and I started reading up on that, and that's how I started in web dev. Then I went to university for something creative. I thought I wanted to be a movie director. That somehow didn't play out the way I wanted, and somehow by accident I founded an advertising agency, and somehow by some more accidents we became pretty good in doing WordPress. So that's that.
All right. Well, thank you. There are a lot of accidents. But I think,
as Bob Ross said, there are only happy accidents.
Yeah. I think we have a few things in common. I originally also from Munich. I went to university in Munich, and I went into web dev by accident. But that's enough about me today. So how did you become aware about Gutenberg development, and when did you and your team start working on the projects for clients that included Gutenberg blocks?
Well, I caught on to the project probably very early in 2017 while reading the Make Core.make blog, but I shoved it to the side as not important and terribly far away. And then when Matt talked at WordCamp Europe in Paris about Gutenberg, then that's when it hit me, because we as an agency sat on a product that was fairly close to launch, maybe like 1 or 2 months before launch, that hit quite a similar niche, not as polished as Gutenberg is right now, but we were proud of what we did. But it hit us that this would become irrelevant very, very fast. So we went through the 5 stages of grief very quickly, through anger, denial, and then we drove straight in. And I think I started to work on Gutenberg in the end of 2017. We did our first commit and started working with the code base, and that's how we became knowledgeable with the code base and started to understand the architecture. And I think by then the release date was still April of 2018. So in the beginning of 2018, we started to talk to clients about that. And we had some amazing clients who are also close friends of ours that were brave enough to venture that adventure with us and do some Gutenberg pages.
Awesome. So you were so you WordCamp Europe in Paris. That was also the time when I got totally aware about Gutenberg. But the development already happened in January and February. But I wasn't paying attention to that too. So, but in August of this year, you released a new version of a site for a gaming company, and WP Tavern also published an article about, because I think it was one of the first publicly available sites that actually have Gutenberg blocks in there. So how is it going with that project now?
That project, which you're referring to, is by a Munich game studio called Mimimi Games. They do awesome games, commando-like, sneaking and attacking games like Shadow Tactics, and now they're working on the new Desperados game, which is probably really awesome, which is going to be probably really awesome. And they tasked us with creating a new website for this year's Gamescom, which traditionally happens in August, which is like an exhibition for games and traditionally the place where you announce new games. So we were not only tasked with creating like a beautiful website that actually works and it is pretty easy to maintain for them, but that could sustain a huge amount of traffic from day one. It wasn't a soft launch, it was like a train hitting you on day one. And that was quite a challenge, but we had the luck that they have amazing artists, we have amazing designers, so we worked like in a creative community or in a creative collaboration there, and it turned out amazing. We built some really amazing blocks for them, and I enjoyed that very much. And the website is still going. We are still working on that website because we have to keep the blocks up to date. But well, that's what we chose to do.
Yeah, and from a few developers, I heard that it's very hard to stay actually on top of Gutenberg because it's still under permanent development and changes often. So since you released the Mimimi game site, Gutenberg has probably had about 20 additional updates with APIs and deprecated function calls and any of that. So on which version is the site now, and how did you handle the possible breakage of earlier Gutenberg versions?
Well, development or the versions of the pages are always maybe 2 or 3 days behind actual release. So we are right now on version 4.4 of Gutenberg, I believe, and the current WordPress, obviously, because keeping up to date is in my experience, the most important thing if you're talking about security. So not patching was no option for us. That meant that we had to constantly watch for deprecations, and together with the team, the Gutenberg dev team, that worked out pretty well because they announced deprecations like 2 versions in advance, and they do it like in the developer console that is open out of habit anyways. So it wasn't that hard to do, even considering that we pretty much copied our Gutenberg workflow from the workflow in the Gutenberg project itself. We are building our build process on the amazing work of Gary Pendergast and the team. So that makes keeping up to things very easy, and even learning things and debugging things very easy, because if we find a bug or something not working in our code, we just take a look in the official repository and how the Gutenberg teams handles things, and that usually clears things up.
Yeah, so you need to be really in tune with what Gutenberg is doing. That's really great. But we also, you have a newer project now that you work a site for a radio station in Munich that is, I believe, run by the Bavarian Film School or some kind of entity there. What is your approach there? What did you bring in from your other projects about Gutenberg? And then later on, we're gonna look at some amazing blocks that you did for the last for those 2 projects. So yeah, but tell us about the radio station.
Well, the radio station you're referring to is M94.5, which is like an educational radio station here in Munich. We obviously have a lot of education in the media industry going on, and they are preparing young journalists for the reality of the digital publishing and radio and TV. And they can do that in a like playful way on their own terms, and that is a pretty awesome project. It's like funded by the Bavarian Institute for Media Controlling, stuff like that. I don't know the official English translation, but in terms of the project, it was the first project where an actual editorial team started to interact with the back end of Gutenberg. In the first projects and in our own projects, we had like a very small, very controlled group that actually interacted with the blogs and interacted with the stuff we built in Gutenberg. So that made it easy for us because we could be sloppy with the user experience and user interactions. That is not possible if you are working with young journalists that are learning stuff, and there's like 100% guarantee that if they can break things, they will break things, and that's okay because it's their job, it's their learning experience. So that third Gutenberg project, that M94.5 project, really made us consider what the perfect user experience in terms of blogs is, because we wanted to prohibit the ability of the editorial team breaking things and having a bad experience. So that was probably the major challenge of that project, and we have one mantra we stick to, which is like a mantra from Matt, and I believe Joost praised that up and down, which is choices, not options. Our blogs can't do everything, but those things that they can do are good and they work, and I don't want to tell that, or I don't want to say that our things are amazing, but yes, our things are amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're gonna show off some of that. I just need to kind of manage to share the screen fast. Hang on a bit.
No problem. I'll be here all night.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you that long. So I'll share this, and then I'll share, oops, not this. I have too many windows open, I guess. Yeah, here we go. So what do we see right now? We see the Desperados with the Mimi side.
Yes, that is
Mimi
side.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that is a blog, the games blog, where the Mimimi team can present the games they did, and they wanted to do that with a nice headline and with an image, with a pack shot, and with the platform icons of their choosing. And behind the platform icon is a link where you can link to the actual store page of that platform.
Well, hang on. It seems that I'm not showing the screen, actually. I'm showing something else. Oh, that's kind of funny. So let's do that again. Sorry, I'm gonna cut it out of the other one.
The beauty of live television.
I need to get better at that, but I'm getting it. I'm getting it. So okay, so this is it. So now it's still not showing is it?
Yeah, I can see that in the stream.
Yes, so now it's in the stream. Yes. So that's from the Mimimi site, and that's the list of games that they have.
Yes, that is the list of games they developed, and we wanted to create like a beautiful layout for them to show off. their projects and their games that they are very proud of, and I can't advertise their games more because I've really enjoyed playing them myself.
Yeah.
And we had to incorporate a beautiful headline and a beautiful pack shot and some platform icons, because their games are obviously available on multiple platforms like the PlayStation Store, the Xbox Store, the Steam Store, etc. And we are able to show different icons on different games and link store pages behind them and do stuff like text color and different images, and link to the actual game's website, and even be responsive in all of that, because that is obviously very important to keep responsiveness.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. Yeah. So
yeah,
on the
that's what it is.
Yeah, and on the sidebar, I see how you can change the text color, the pack shot, also the platform, the icon colors. You want to have it in white or not, and then the links underneath those icons for the particular gaming station. So that's
exactly.
And so the editor or whoever puts that together has all the information that they need to put in there. So, and how does that look? Yeah.
And that is the beauty of that. We barely have any original code in that block definition. Everything is like very standard, because the Gutenberg projects comes with all those predefined controllers or controls, and it's so easy to build blocks that do amazing stuff. And that's how I can't commend the Gutenberg team enough for how they built that, because the controls they provide and the possibilities they give are astounding. I enjoy working with that so much.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not yet a full JavaScript developer. I learned JavaScript for the third time, and I kind of missed that 2009 to 2016 jump, and I'm kind of catching up with it, as well as React. But I was able to put those nice tools into the sidebar for editors, and they are very easy to do. And they're also easy to customize. So I really like it. Now I'm going to switch over to the live view of that, and one can see that that's actually 100% what you see is what you get. And that's excellently done. Yeah.
Well,
So,
I don't want to correct you, but it is actually not 100%. The page comes from a time where even now we haven't yet figured out how to write styles for the Gutenberg editor, because the editor styles you provide as a theme author have to be somewhat different than the editor styles you would provide for the old TinyMC, because you're not in an iframe anymore. You can't do anything you want. It is not very forgiving. So even we haven't figured out yet a good workflow or a good approach to apply these styles to the front end. You can see the fonts are different and stuff like that.
It's a little different, but it's close enough. So, and I just kind of switched over to a different block that you put together, and that's also for the Mimimi's game site. And where did you get all those avatars, those pictures?
That is a block that is built by a team member of mine called Chris, and he did amazing work of figuring out the Discord RP. We're actually pulling live data in this block from Discord, and obviously Mimimi Games, as a games company, are hosting a Discord server for their community, and all the team members are like specially tagged as team. And whenever they update their avatar on Discord, or leave the team in Discord, or join the team in Discord, this block automatically updates in a time frame of like 5 or 10 minutes. Wow. So you can get a team overview and Discord interaction basically without any maintenance.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so the interaction with all the different platforms is really good. And I think you sent me a link to a plugin from Bernhard Klotz, was his name?
Bernhard Cooks.
Cooks, I'm sorry, yeah. And Bernhard Cooks, and I will also share that in the show notes. So,
Nice.
and we're gonna go into a next, oops, that's the same thing again. Oh, I was at the beginning, there was this timeline, I'm looking for that. The timeline, oh, I'm scrolling through a lot of things here. Don't get motion sick here. So I'm here on the timeline block that you created for a different website.
Yeah, that is a block we created for a project called Games Bavaria. And I believe this is the first really advanced custom block I ever built. What it basically can do is provide a timeline or a series of events that are linked together with this time beam. And you can set the date, you can set a headline, you can set a description and an image. And obviously it works as a responsive version as well. That is a given with all of our blocks.
Yes.
And the options include like an option if you want to set the image to the left or the right, if the piece of timeline you're editing is like the starter or the end or the in-between and the actual date and stuff like that. And that was everything very easy to build. I was amazed because I don't have a background in React. I know a bit of JavaScript. I'm like a jQuery guy. I'm one of those guys. And so even I was surprised how not difficult that is, because when we start to work with Gutenberg and all these fancy concepts and all these fancy words were thrown around, and I had the fear of React like being too hard for me. No, it wasn't hard at all. I mean, like, I don't have an educational, computing science, IT, programming background. I'm a self-taught guy. And if I can do that, everyone can.
Yeah, that's, you just kind of need to put your mind to it. There is a little learning curve there, but with all the packaging, but a lot of people in the WordPress community have done an amazing job to put this actually together and help you with on every step of the way. You know, there are, and on the Gutenberg Times there is a post, and you, I can put them in the show note as well. It's 53 resources for developers, where for every level on that journey from PHP, HTML, CSS to React or block development. And there are even that just came out this week, additional tools available even for a PHP developer to put blocks together. So, and this is the view of the timeline block on the website, which only has a different background, but other than that, it seems to be pretty close to what you see in the editor. And when I go, in the text section, the person could do either a heading or was able to put any of the other blocks in there, or was this restricted to a certain?
That was restricted to one paragraph of text and headline only, because that block originated in a time where inner blocks was not yet a thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That is, I mean, like, that's like 6 months ago, but we are starting to talk like, yeah, back in the day, right? It's fun how far we've moved in such a short time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm calling us we. They did.
Yeah.
The Gutenberg team did.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, how fast.
I mean, like, if people ask me how to get started with that, it's always two things that helped me tremendously. I'm a historically bad teacher because I have very little patience. But if I can give 2 tips, I would say start reading the repository. And one thing that helped me understand the workflow is the Create Guten block by Ahmed Awais. He's an amazing guy and writes amazing commit messages and funny chat messages. But all in all, I don't use that, but that helped me to understand things very much.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also a course by Zach Gordon. It's the block development, Gutenberg block development, and it's amazing. Yeah, it brings you from not knowing a whole lot about it through the whole block development, and I got really started very fast with it. So I think we have a few more blocks to go through. Hang on.
Yes, please.
I'm gonna do the. I need to practice this. So we saw the timeline, and then I'm gonna go through. Oops. I'm gonna just scroll through again. Well, maybe not. Escape. Yes. So escape. So this is. Just need to make sure that we then see it also on the screen again. So this is for another site. These are the games. We did that. There was another one after that, right? Community.
The background block, I think.
This one. Yeah, your agency background block. Hang on, I'm gonna do it. This is full. And this was also from a time.
I think the block is not yet visible.
Okay, yeah, I need to. So I need to first go to Hangouts, do the screen share. Somehow that stopped. And then go back to this showing. Yes, and so Hendrik 15,000 times. Then,
oh God, I even can't stand me one time.
So, and I think that's in the stream now, right? It's a block.
Yes, that is something we built for a theme we are about to release called Agency. It's called a split block, because even with columns, you can't do a fancy thing like that where you have like an image and an insert image in the middle and position it to the left or to the right, because I basically needed that block when I was presenting like a mobile app, and so I just built it. It took like in my first version, like from 6 months ago, it took like 3 hours to build, and I keep refining the user experience and refactoring the code like all the time. And I think we are now at the point where Gutenberg is stable enough to put that out in the world. And basically the commands are very easy. You have like commands for a minimum height. If you want to make that like the whole page height, you just add a CSS argument called like 100 VH for viewport height or 50% or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Background color and text color. The background image, which is like the yellow fields in the background. The center image, which is like the iPhone, and you can even position the center image like in the center and to every corner, and so it lines up nicely. That is not one image.
That's pretty amazing, yeah.
2 images on top of each other.
Yeah.
And so scaling isn't an issue. So that's how we built that.
Yeah, I'm just going to interrupt a little bit. I just went over to the chat window and I saw Cesar Tenebrae has a question for us. And we get to it in just a moment. I just wanted to show also the live site, the front end of this blog, because that's how you can actually combine those two with the image on the left side and the text on the right, or the text on the left and the image on the right. What I really like about that is that it has a lot of white space. Here it's gray space around the text, and the image actually fills the full rectangle there. And that's a beautiful design. Congratulations there.
Thank you very much. And you must not forget that is actually the wide view. It can do like a full screen view. like the full align full. And I have to give credit to Morten Rand Hendriksen. I was like sitting in his CSS Grid talk in Paris, I believe, where he said, like, guys, start using CSS Grid. And that is like the first major CSS Grid experiment I did to start learning the concepts behind it. And he's totally right. CSS Grid is awesome, and we should all start using it more.
Yeah. I said in the same talk, actually, in Paris in 2017. It was amazing. Yeah. So let's go back to Cesar Tenebre. I'm just going to read the question, and I get us mugshots again going here. And no, that's wrong. Yeah, that's one. So the question is for both of us. What's your opinion on Gutenberg release on November 27th? Will it be ready? Do you share Joost Michael Heyman's opinion that it should be shifted to early 19? What do you think?
Well, as always, there are two sides of a discussion. Perfect software is an illusion. So you always have to find the moment in time where the issues you can find are so small that only you and a few persons or using the actual thing will notice these issues. I believe we are, with Gutenberg, especially considering where we came from, in a good place. But I have to admit, I am totally not an expert on accessibility, so I cannot talk about the accessibility issues, which are like a major concern of a lot of people out there, and very valid concerns. So from a business standpoint and from an agency standpoint, I want to get out Gutenberg as soon as possible. And I am very happy if Gutenberg releases on November 27th. But from a developer standpoint and from a usage standpoint, I have to admit that Gutenberg probably would benefit very much from the additional 3 or 4 weeks if we push that into early January.
Yeah, I'm also would be able to vehemently argue both sides, but personally, I'm very, very happy with that it actually gets into core now, just because now the plugin developers and the theme developers are able to actually test their products against a final API when it is in the core. And that's also the argument where I say probably pushing it into January would give them a little bit more time to be up to date. But on the other hand, the development has gone on for 2 years. And it might have been, and I think it's for the Gutenberg team, if I would ask them, and I will have a show with them in the end of November 30th. I'll have Matias and Tammie and Joanne in the show, and we can certainly ask them. But I'm pretty sure that after if I ask them, have you thought that would actually take 2 years instead of 1 year to get it into core? I think they just want to be done with it and see, if they're never done with it, but see how it actually works in core, and then do every other development right from there, and not have this separation between here's plugin, there's core. And I heard, so when I read through the Gutenberg release notes, that Gary Pendergast, you mentioned earlier that you use the build process that he put out and the other developers in Gutenberg are using. I understand that 5.0 is only 4.9.8, which has been out since August, so the last 4 months, that has already been out, and the Gutenberg plugin. There's nothing else in this release. So theoretically, and that's we will find out the 27th, theoretically, every piece of it has actually been tested multiple times. There are 670 or I think 710 active installs of the Gutenberg Gutenberg plugin on WordPress sites. So it's pretty astonishing how many people are actually using it already. Yeah.
And that's a good thing, because from usage you can learn a lot of things. But considering the scope of the project and the length of the development, a funny thought is that Gutenberg was scheduled to release end of last year, and that release would not have had inner blocks or things like columns. And from a standpoint where we are now looking back on that project that was like intended to have shipped, that would have been horrible. I mean, like from hindsight, speaking with hindsight, I mean, it's a good thing we did not release back then. But even now, I believe Matt said that, and I think Gary said that as well, that the 5.1 or 5.0 release is kind of unlucky, because most of the other feature releases like the REST API or CLI snook in like with minor releases, not with a major release. So I think a lot of the fear with Gutenberg is fueled by some parts of the fear with the release of Gutenberg are fueled by that 5.0 number. If it would have been 5.1 or 4.8 or not 5.0, I think the discussion would not have been that extreme.
Yeah, I had my husband, he worked in a company that does software for hotels over the Y2K year change, and it was kind of so anticlimactic that they actually played games in the office all day. They didn't have any phone call. And I think that's what is what Mike Molenbeek, he said he wants the 5.0 release to be as anticlimactic as possible, just because it has been tested so much already. So yeah. Does that answer your question? Says what's your name? But thank you for joining us, and I hope some of you are watching that you also have a few questions or some comments. It makes it a little bit more lively. Yeah. So I have a few more questions for you, Hendrik.
Yes, please.
What are your thoughts about making the blocks that we were able to see today available in the repository or on GitHub for the bigger audience?
I can. When we started developing blocks, we started doing that from a theme developer standpoint. So the main work we do is we develop themes for enterprise clients, and that is where our mindset is. So we spend a tremendous amount of time to polish the blocks to work perfectly with themes and work perfectly responsive and have the right amount of user interaction to make administration easy and.
Oh, you're cutting out a bit.
This approach or this mindset, in my eyes, does not fit with.
Do you have a shaky internet connection?
Themes themes should not have blocks, but blocks should be in plugins. And if I separate the two, there is a gap in my mind.
I think, Hendrik, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
I can hear you.
You were cutting out for the last, I would say, 3 or 4 sentences, the whole, your idea about themes and blocks. I think you need to just repeat it so we can get it on recording. I'm sorry, but you were cutting out.
No problem. So we are coming from a mindset of theme developers. So we are spending a tremendous amount of time on polishing the block and front end and making sure all the alignments are right, all the margins and paddings and font sizes and images are perfect, and it's all very much responsive. And I, for one, have a hard time seeing that working with a bunch of themes as part of a plugin. That's why we were initially against releasing our blocks as part of a plugin, but making them a premium feature of a theme we are about to release. But while preparing for this show, we were looking at what Atomic Block does and what some other block editors are doing, and they are approaching it in a very calm and very professional manner. That they say, all right, we have our themes, and if you're using our blocks with our themes, great. We have the 20X themes, like the 2017, 2018, and the upcoming 2019 theme. If you use our blocks with that, also okay. And everything else, nah, maybe not. And while I don't like the possible user experience emerging from that, I understand the approach, and that is why we did a 180 this week while preparing the show, and we are in the process of pulling out some of the blocks, refining the user experience to be a little more presentable, and we are about to release that in a plugin. I want to be ready to release them today, but then a Gutenberg contribution happened, and well, I chose to write code for Gutenberg and not for our own plugin. So that's that.
Well, I'm looking forward to those blocks and use them on some of my for our clients on the sites. We talked about your project, Gutenberg project. You are a contributor to the Gutenberg development as well, but you haven't been an agency your team hasn't been working together as an agency since August. You have a longer history. So how do you prepare the websites that you built before Gutenberg? How do you prepare your clients to kind of migrate over to 5.0 and the new editor? Do you have any plans for that, or what are the discussions like with your clients?
So we have a 3-step process for that. Obviously, we have clients that are not in active service anymore, that run code of ours and run theme of ours, but that is 2 or 3 years old. We try to inform them as much as possible, and we are very lucky in Germany because we have a project called the Gutenberg Fibel, which is unfortunately in German for every English-speaking person, by the amazing Jessica Leischig. I hope I pronounce her name right. And she provides a tremendous amount of information about Gutenberg on that website. And we basically use that to communicate with our clients. The second step is clients that are in service right now. The first thing we do when we service those websites is install the classic editor plugin and start discussing options with the client if Gutenberg can be integrated in their theme, if we have to rewrite the theme to be clean and have as much of a stable code base as possible. And then there's new developments, like starting from, I believe, April or May. There's not one project in our pipeline which is not a Gutenberg project. Now I can't hear you.
Muted. Yes, you can't hear me because I'm muted. Technology works.
Amazing.
And the problem is always between the chair and the keyboard, right? So we have a similar process with our clients. Some of them are in active development, and we have started already development with them on Gutenberg, even if it's I think we did smaller sites in June, or started doing it in June. And we are in communication with the other clients in terms of what the editor want to do. If they want to learn things, yeah, we switch emails back and forth. We also do trainings online and just demos. And then we leave it pretty much to the our clients to do their plan. Most of them put it in their budget for the 2019 cycle, and that's perfectly fine with us, because we definitely want to wait. There are 2 sites that will go with 5.0 directly. One of them is, of course, GutenbergTimes.com. Just to say, okay, well, we're dogfooding Gutenberg and with WordPress 5.0 to the extent it can be. And the others will wait for 5.0.1, 2, and 3, so that because what I hear from the dev team on the dev chat is that they are, once it's in core and 5.0 is released, that they will have 2-week cycles, also reiterating on the experience and do bug fixing and do additional feature set like accessibility, bug fixing, and refining of the UI. So now we are kind of in the almost to the end of the show. Thank you so much for being here. I think we talked about the news, and the news is in 14 days. No, in 12 days. 11 days.
Yes, we are counting seconds, basically.
We're taking seconds now, yeah. WordPress 5.0 will be released. That's the current status.
Until the world ends.
And then the world ends. Right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Hendrik, for being with us and sharing all your good thoughts with it. You will have a lot of information in the show notes once it's published on Gutenberg Times. I will also at least update the YouTube description with some of the links, so your viewers can follow up on that. We take a little break over Thanksgiving in United States. We will have some friends over for dinner and do turkey. My husband has been doing that for the last 18 years, every November. Nice. And then we are back on November 30th, and we will ask Matias Ventura and Tammie Lister and Joan Asmussen, how did the WordPress 5.0 release work out for them? Because it will be 3 days after the release, unless, of course, they push it. And we will ask them do a little review of the last 2 years in their lives. If you want to support the Gutenberg Times, you too can be a patron on Patreon, or support us as a main partner, and connect with me on Pauli@GutenbergTimes.com, or just DM me on Twitter or on Slack. My user handle is @bph. And with that, I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, happy Turkey Day, and I'll see you again at November 30th. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.